This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
All right, let's get to it. I'm really excited about this. I don't know why, but it was, again, this is one of my favorite pay-per-views growing up. I told you off air, I wore this tape out, and a lot of it was because of this next guy, Stan Hansen. He's going to do a backstage promo with like, a comically hilarious amount of tobacco in his mouth. Yeah. He's screaming, he's spitting on a small pumpkin. It's just dripping down his chest. It's a hilarious visual. And he's going to be taking on Lex Luger here, 9 minutes and 28 seconds. And Stan Hansen wins the United States Championship here. Gary Michael Capetta made the 5-minute call in 2 minutes. So they're clearly running short, but, my goodness, it's a fun match, at least for me. 2.5 stars. You know what the finish is. Luger goes down with a lariat. It's a clean finish. There is a ref bump in here, but it's not necessary. The story is Stan Hansen is just running roughshod over Lex Luger. I really enjoyed this as a kid. Lex Luger was one of my favorites, but this guy, Stan Hansen, this is my first introduction to him as a kid. Talk about believable. This is a scary dude, a legit badass looking dude. And he's your new United States champion, 9 minutes and 28 seconds with the lariat. What'd you think?
Well, Stan's one of the best guys ever in the business. You know, he's a businessman. He's a pro. He's a smart guy. He's articulate, even though that big glom of tobacco, that was part of his character, as we know. But Stan is so skilled. And he knew the thing about the young wrestlers can look at Stan Hansen and learn from is that Stan had a move set of let's say, just for the argument's sake, a half a dozen things. Now, of course, his lariat, not a clothesline, a lariat, because that was the deal, was his finish. He'd established that finish. He'd beaten the best in Japan with that finish. Guys that hardly ever lose, Stan beat with that finish. And so we just went by what brought him to the dance. And you don't tell a guy that's a veteran that's been a main event star all over the world, how to work a match. You know what they do. You figure out how you can exploit and enhance what they do. So Stan always did things in the ring, Conrad, that he could do well. He was smart. He didn't get out of his lane. He didn't go to the top rope. He never saw a Hurricane Rana that he liked. So it's just Stan was Stan. I thought getting Stan was a great thing for us. I saw Stan wrestle Vader in a match. Somebody sent me on videotape on an email or something, and I told the committee, we need these two big bastards are two guys we need because we need monster heels. You know why? We got this guy named Sting, and Sting is going to be our guy apparently. So if he's going to be our guy, let's don't screw him and not have any opponents ready for him. So that was why we brought in Hansen and Vader, and Leon and Stan both they didn't wrestle each other, but they both contributed to the brand. But we knew when we got Stan, his obligations to Japan were already established. We knew he would be on a short leash and a short-term deal because he had other obligations already committed. So people, I've seen on Twitter, somebody asked the other day why Hansen, why he lost to Luger and he was over, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was leaving. That's why. He was leaving. And we booked that match where he left I think that was the bull rope match. So they got to touch all the corners. So there's a way to protect him there a little bit so it didn't get bad Japanese press. But Stan was a prize for us. I thought Stan was a big contributor. He's one of the most respected guys in the business. I thought he could help the young guys in the locker room, but I've always thought, you want to select talents that can enhance the locker room in more than one way, and he could. So good outing for us. I think the finish shocked a lot of people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of times guys are just using that clothesline, but not this one. I think we sold it good too, because I knew what brought him to the dance, and I knew that lariat was pretty historic. You hear the wrestlers talk about, Stan has real bad vision, really, really bad vision. So Stan would say, he's told me this. He says sometimes I get the guy is standing and he's getting ready to take the lariat. He said, all it is a blur. I said, so you're guessing? He said, pretty much. That's why sometimes he hit guys in the nose or the face or the chest. More often he got it safe, but it was all a blur. And then another guy says to me, goddamn JR, you don't know what it's like to see him in comeback mode, like a damn bull snorting spit and slobber, and knowing that he can't see you. Where are you going to hit me with that heavy tree-like lariat? So, but Sam's a legend, and I'm glad we got to have him there. I don't know if he had much fun. He got paid well, but I don't know if he had fun, because we weren't that exactly a fun place to be at that point in time because of all the indecision and the lack of ability to get a straight answer. But Stan was a keeper, no doubt. I love the guy.
Is it fair to say that he's a guy who wants to go out there and get really physical? I mean, he expects it in return though, right? I mean, a lot has been written and said over the years about how, Stan was stiff and blah, blah, blah. And he does have a couple of punches in here where you're like, well, he didn't pull that at all. I mean, that was a potato and a half, but he expected it in return, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He didn't have a problem with receipts. He was going to get his stuff in to make the match look believable and break the audience's suspension of disbelief, where you forget that it's a work. And that was his goal. He was that way. And I'll tell you how he learned a lot of that, or at least the tradition started, was back in Mid-South when he and Frank Goodish, who became Bruiser Brody, were tag team partners. And they had, and Cowboy had him, he'd always fire him up. You know, he was, go, you get over, go get over. So some of those poor enhancement guys on Mid-South television in that era that were working with Hansen and Goodish, you get access into that footage, go back and look at it. They abused people. Now they'd help them up in the locker room, they'd build them up, thank them, be professional and all that stuff. But before they went out there, you knew what you were in for. This is not going to be, Briscoe and Funk, smooth as silk, transitions and catch can stuff. We're going to fight. I think JBL got a lot of his stuff from Stan Hansen. And, I see Mr. Brody Lee reminds me of Bruiser Brody. Their presence and their legacies are still alive in the form of a handful of talents that recognize that my skill set and my body type can coincide somewhat positively with these two dudes. And that entails for me to be physical.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.